I swear, Vlade Divac must still be pulling the strings in Sacramento. A little earlier in the day, the San Antonio Spurs got what they wanted, and they got De'Aaron Fox. They also pulled off the rare double fleecing of two other NBA teams in a single deal. We will get into great detail on how this deal went down, as well as I will give you my thoughts on why the San Antonio Spurs absolutely won this deal. I'm still trying to figure out what the hell the Chicago Bulls were thinking in giving up Zach LaVine for basically nothing. In terms of what the Sacramento Kings got back at the end of the day, you have to remember that this Sacramento Kings team, for whatever reason, has always loved Zach LaVine. Basically, what you get with this Sacramento Kings team is Chicago Bulls West. And that's a team that struggled to make the playoffs. Welcome to the NBA Rundown. As always, I am Dave DeBaugh, coming to you live and on tape from the heart of the Silicon Valley. Hey, new to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe. And of course, if you like this video, go ahead and like it. All right, let's talk about the details of this trade first. In fairness, the Spurs got De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. That's what they ended up with. The Kings ended up with Sidy Cissoko and Zach LaVine, 3 first rounds, the 2025 Chicago first round, the 2025 Charlotte first round, the 2027 San Antonio Spurs first round, which is probably going to be like a second round. And for God's sakes, who knows where we're going to be in 2031 when they actually get the Minnesota Timberwolves first round. There were some other second round picks. I put up the actual trade so you all can actually see it. The Bulls end up with what can best be described as some junk. They get Zach Collins, Tre Jones, actually, who I like a lot, and Kevin Huerter, who is shooting in the 20% range from the three-point arc this year. If you will, Kevin Huerter has the golf version in basketball of the yips this year. And then they also got back their own 2025 first round pick. So there is a little bit of value there for the Chicago Bulls in this one. But I want to start by talking about the San Antonio Spurs and what they actually truly got away with here, which was actually pulling off a trade for De'Aaron Fox by not giving up any of the young talent on their team that they absolutely value, and one Stephon Castle and of course Devin Vassell. The fact that neither of those players were included in the trade to either Chicago or Sacramento on its own is an absolute fleecing of both of those teams when you consider what the San Antonio Spurs ultimately gave up. Look, I'm not sure exactly what's going on in Sacramento. If it's true, Vlade is still somehow involved in some of these decision-making that goes on there. But when you look at it, it's DeMar DeRozan and it's Zach LaVine. And don't get me wrong, I like Zach LaVine's game a lot. I just think, you're paying a lot for a guy that, unfortunately, I have to bring up the injuries when we talk about Zach LaVine. And that's really, truly one of the big things that you have to consider when you're making these kinds of trades. Now, you're the Chicago Bulls, to basically get back nothing. I mean, Zach Collins was brought in as a center trainer for Wemby. If you will, he was training wheels brought into the San Antonio Spurs. And clearly at this point, Victor Wembanyama has pulled off his Forrest Gump and is running without braces anymore. It is obvious to everybody that Wemby is a superstar and is going to continue to become an even bigger superstar, probably be the face of the NBA if he can stay injury-free. No need for Zach Collins and his training wheels anymore in San Antonio. I always liked Tre Jones's game. However, if you think about it, they didn't need him anymore, especially after they went out and got Castle and then brought in CP3, even if it was only for a single year. And then the Kevin Huerter thing, as I mentioned, he basically has the yips at this point. I've always liked Kevin Huerter, but those three players together might get you a second-round draft pick at this point. In other words, the Bulls got really fleeced. They gave up on a player that they've been trying to move for 2.5 years, and all they could get out of it was a first-round draft pick back. If you are a Chicago Bulls fan, and you look at how some of these other younger franchises are with younger teams like OKC, who has God knows how many first rounds and second rounds. I think they have like 15 or 16 first rounds and something like 80 second round draft picks in the next 10 years. It is ridiculous how well those organizations are run from a rebuild perspective. Same thing can be said about the Houston Rockets and the Memphis Grizzlies. Those teams, and it seems as if the San Antonio Spurs are following in a similar suit at this point. They are all teams that I just mentioned that are absolutely on the rise. It's just that OKC and Memphis and Houston are already there, and then San Antonio has got some catching up to do. But clearly, when you look at the nucleus of the San Antonio Spurs team, which now includes De'Aaron Fox, it's an absolute win for the San Antonio Spurs, especially because they didn't have to give up Castle and they didn't have to give up Vassell to get it done. Now, if you are a Sacramento Kings fan, well, you're going to enjoy watching Zach LaVine play. Yes, you're going to have Sabonis still there unless something happens in the next 3 or 4 days before the NBA trading deadline. This is a team that should continue to score, and my guess is will put up a lot of points. It's just that defense is going to continue to be optional on this team, despite whatever kinds of treats Doug Christie actually dangles at the team to encourage them to actually play defense occasionally. Look, at the end of the day, the Sacramento Kings probably could have gotten significantly more, especially from a young player perspective in the marketplace. But they did De'Aaron Fox the way De'Aaron Fox ultimately wanted to be done. And if you think about it, it's almost as if De'Aaron Fox had a no trade clause. That is how I know he's not there, but that's how that Sacramento Kings organization ultimately treated this. They took the input from the superstar player and then they actually delivered on that. Look at how much better the Portland Trailblazers are playing today. They didn't do that with Dame. They actually ended up shipping him off to Milwaukee, which wasn't necessarily a place that Damian Lillard really wanted to go. If you remember, Damian Lillard wanted to play in Miami. I mean, for that matter, who doesn't want to work in Miami? Who doesn't want to play in Miami if your name isn't Jimmy Butler? So at the end of the day, if you really look at this deal as it sort of lays out, it is as clear as water is wet that the San Antonio Spurs absolutely won this deal, and that the Bulls and the Kings both got fleeced by the Spurs. All right, I would love to know what your thoughts and opinions are on this one. Please go ahead and drop those in. For the NBA Rundown, I'm Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.